I love Star Wars. My first Star Wars game was Dark Forces, circa 96. And yes, I pre-ordered the remaster. And Space Mom yells at me every day to go take my meds. I even bought Star Wars Outlaws because I'm willing to give any Star Wars game a chance. Out of curiosity, which is your favorite? Drop it in the comments. It should come as no surprise that I loved this game, but it's not without its flaws. So, let's dig in and see how good a fit it is for a casual gamer. Initially, the game shocked me with stellar graphics and textures, and where the environments are concerned, they're great throughout the game. As time wore on, I began to see a few small issues, though only one thing managed to bother me enough to write about it. The Wookiee fur looks plastic. Big yikes. Human hair didn't suffer this same problem, so I'm wondering if it was a time saver since there's so much fur on a Wookiee and so many Wookiees when you visit Kashyyyk. When it comes to sounds, the music is top notch, as expected, but there were some issues starting about halfway through. In a handful of cutscenes, the dialogue and mouth movements were off by 5 seconds or more and got progressively worse as the scene went on. Inexcusable.
Later. We have our lead.
Music and sound effects save the day, though. While immersion breaking, I don't think these gripes are game breaking enough to warrant a complete downgrade, so graphics and sounds still get an A. I thought this game was going to open up into an epic search for, no spoilers, but it ended up being a boring trip into tombs to solve environmental puzzles and find MacGuffins. The story was easily the weakest part of this game. I mean, it's still a Star Wars story at heart because it adheres to simple good versus evil, which I do appreciate. No shades of gray villains here. I also like an opportunity for redemption, which this did bring in the last act after all MacGuffins were acquired. I won't tell you if it was successful, because that would be spoilers, but it was an opportunity. The last couple hours are incredible, but I didn't really click with the story until then. That made it a struggle to keep going halfway through once I realized there wasn't enough time to do the epic thing I was initially tasked with doing. Story gets a B. The style of combat works well for hack and slash players on story or easy mode who struggle to remember button combos. There are also lots of opportunities later in the game to pair force powers with the lightsaber for cool maneuvers and combos to keep even the hardcore players on their toes. There are probably a lot of uses for force powers that I didn't even consider because I didn't think to use them on enemies most of the time. I think it's a great system, no matter your skill level or tactical mindedness. I haven't had this much fun with combat in a while, so combat gets an A. Platforming has never felt so good. Holy Hannah, it is smooth and extremely reactive to inputs even at the last second. I didn't even care that there were visual hints directing me to places to grab and parkour. These are more hidden than usual though, not that obnoxious bright yellow. They blended it in to look like a shade of the rest of the environmental coloring, which is an example I wish more games would follow. Controlling items with force powers also usually works as intended during puzzles and combat. Speaking of, combat also had fantastic controls. They felt responsive and followed the most recent input, interrupting a prior input smoothly most of the time for last-second blocks or target swaps. No notes, controls get an A. Jedi skills getting double jump as your last relearned Padawan skill is the absolute dumbest order of operations. I would think a Jedi would learn how to harness the Force in their own body long before manipulating other objects. Double jump should have been first, or very close to it, and the only reason it isn't was to lock away areas and make you come back later, which wastes the player's time. Skill trees are focused on combat skills, health, and force abilities, sometimes combining them for more powerful options. You are limited on how far out you can build though, which means that you are forced to diversify, which takes away player choice and agency. I prefer when talents are wide open as long as you have enough points to reach them. These were also locked because they pertained to Jedi skills that you hadn't learned yet, which is an excuse to force the player away from focusing on any one tree. The ship system map has repetitive dialogue that keeps telling me to follow your instincts when I go to a table to select the next planet to visit, but there's a big bubble at the top telling me where to go, so my instincts are pointless. Technically, you can go anywhere, but there are only like 5 planets, so it's not remotely as open as you're initially led to believe. All told, the systems are decent, but could be better with overall refinement and a few specific tweaks, so systems get a B. The interface is utterly minimal, just a health bar for the player and enemies. When you scan or unlock a cosmetic, the text and graphics feel very on brand for this universe. The menus are clean with the same minimalistic graphics and text that screams Star Wars game. The map is initially a little confusing since you can bounce between levels, but the legend is clear, and after you actually get a chance to play and use it a little, you'll likely settle right in. No notes. Interface gets an A. So to finish the report card rundown, was the game fun? Absolutely a blast, and one of the best Star Wars games I've played. Is it good for casuals though? Again, yes, with difficulty options and forgiving controls and checkpoints, anyone is capable of beating this game. Are there microtransactions? None that I saw. What about multiplayer? Also, none. Given the fluid controls, smooth combat and platforming, puzzles that don't need guides, and an easy to follow story arc, Jedi Fallen Order gets a crunchy rating of Tomb Raider. This was a high quality production, and I enjoyed my time with Jedi Fallen Order. I definitely want to play the Jedi Survival sequel someday, but I'm not in a rush. I'm behind on production, so I'm going to wrap this up quickly and get on with the next video. Thanks again for spending your time here. I know there's a lot of reviewers out there and you picked me, and I really appreciate that. Don't forget to try new games, slay that backlog, and cheers to you all.